Welcome to Farm Charm Chic. I'm Emily. Today's episode is a Christmas in July episode. We've made it past the 4th of July, so I thought let's have some fun with some Christmas in July DIYs. Today's episode is all about making your own Christmas ornaments. I have 10 beautiful DIY ornaments to share with you that are sure to bring that beautiful personal touch to your Christmas tree. If you like crafting, DIYs, dupes, hacks, thrift flips, or just creating in general, I would love if you would consider subscribing. When you see your favorite ornament in today's video, remember to hit that thumbs up. Let's go make some DIYs. Every year I see these cute little candy cane ornaments or decor that Dollar Tree has. I always pick up a few, and I thought I would have my take at doing a makeover on them, make them look a little more country and a little more farmhouse and just the tinsel look that they come with. So I'm just taking some red and green fabric and I just tore that into several strips. You maybe just need maybe like a yard of a strip of fabric total for each side of the candy cane. You can just kind of eyeball it or use some scraps of what you have, but I'm just going to remove that tinsel. It comes off very easily. You just kind of find an end and it just kind of spirals off of there. You'll notice that there are some little pegs all around the outside of the form of the candy canes. That's what holds the tinsel on. Once you wrap your fabric around there, we're not going to see that at all, so don't worry about those. So I'm just starting at the bottom. I'm going to do a contrasting like a red and a green since it's traditional Christmas colors, but just use whatever colors you want, or you want to do the same colors, whatever. It's just have fun with it and make it yours. I just thought this was kind of fun to do the contrasting red and green, one side being plaid, another side having the stripes on there. I thought was really cute. So I just glued this to the end of my candy cane form, and then I'm just wrapping it around, just making sure as you wrap that fabric that you're going over each layer so you're not going to be able to see that form at all through it. When I get to the end of this strip of fabric, I'm just going to glue that down. That's just going to make it so I can start another strip. With my red fabric, I had a strip long enough that I could just keep going, but my green fabric that I had, since it was a scrap, I didn't have quite as long of a piece, so that's why I'm kind of having to glue it right here. So to pick up my next strip, I'm just going to place a little bit more glue down there, and I'm just going to start this and start wrapping it around again. Now, since this is connected in the middle, you just kind of have to work around that, just kind of going up and over the candy cane form, covering as much of that form as you can. And you'll see when I get to the red color, the green was a little bit easier to do since it was the first color I started with. The red, I'll kind of show you how I work around that, but you end up not being able to see the form at all. But fear not, because we're going to put a little bit of a floral thing on here that's going to cover that middle part. So even if you were to see it or you can't get it to line up just right, it's going to be covered anyway, so you don't have to pay so much or stress about it or pay so much attention to it. So now I'm just going to do a second layer of fabric on each side. This is just because when you look at it, you could still kind of see the little pokey things out coming from the form that I didn't really want to see. I probably would have been fine to leave it, but I thought it would just make it a little bit more plush and nice to add a second layer of fabric. So that's completely optional. You can look at it when you do yours and decide if you would like to do that. It's not 100% necessary, but it does make it look a little bit more high-end in my opinion. So now I'm starting on that red side of the candy cane, and I'm doing the same, just starting at the base. You could start at the top, I guess, if you wanted. I just found it easier to start at the base and just wrapping that around. I really love this red striped fabric because it really kind of mimicked the candy cane, so I was really pleased with how it turned out. Now you can see I'm at that middle part of the form here, so I'm just going to place some glue down so that will hold it in place right there. And I'm kind of just going to pinch it with my thumb, and just obviously don't burn yourself. If you need to use finger protectors, do that. But I'm just holding it down for that to dry and solidify a little bit. And then I will just stretch that fabric up over the top of that candy cane form and kind of start wrapping it that way. Just making sure that I can go back over if I need to cover up any of that form showing through. The nice part was, to be honest with you, is this was the red fabric. So if you could see a little bit of that red form peeking out, you couldn't really tell. But again, I will go over this again with a second layer. Plus we will have a little floral swag in the middle to cover any areas that you might be able to see. But I feel like I did a pretty good job with not having any of that form peek through. I love making vintage tags to add to things, especially at Christmas time. And so I'm just taking a generic tag here and I'm just going to wrinkle it and crinkle it to give it that really aged look. I just picked these up in a package at Hobby Lobby or even like Staples, you'd be able to find them. But I'm using some distressing ink that's going to age this. So I start with the yellowing one to make it look really vintage. And then I just keep adding a little bit of the darker colors very lightly. You can see how it picks up all of those wrinkles and crinkles, really makes that look aged. I do make sure I go around all of the edge of the tag as well, just so that way you can't see any of the original white on it. Now while that's drying, I'm just taking a couple little pieces of some greenery. These are just from, I keep a little bag of all of my little pieces off of my stems that I use. And this was just some little boxwood from Walmart and then some of the juniper, I believe, from Walmart. But use whatever scraps you have or just a couple little pieces off of a pick. And I'm just using a little bit of twine to wrap around the top to give it like a finished branch look there. So that way you don't see the little plasticky ends on it. And then I'm just going to use some twine to tie this onto my candy canes. Now I did put a little dot of glue behind it to help hold it there, but I also wanted to tie it just to give it a little bit more security. You're not going to see those ties at all unless you look at it directly from the back. When I turn this over, I'm just going to fluff up that greenery and make sure that it looks nice and centered, kind of get it positioned. If you need to add a little bit more glue behind some of your leaves to help them stay where you want, go ahead and do that. Now I'm using my Dollar Tree alphabet stamps here to have this little tag say candy canes. My friend Linda always uses her click stamps from Amazon, and every time I pull out my Dollar Tree stamps, I'm so jealous. I need to save up and buy some of those. The Dollar Tree stamps work well, but they are very tedious to use. So just a fair warning, but they definitely get the job done. So I just tied that tag on there, and then I have this little plaid ribbon here. This was given to me on a gift from years ago that I've just kind of been hanging on to, and I loved the really vintage feel. I love that it's kind of a red plaid. Since I had the red stripe on the candy cane, I thought it contrasted really well and kind of brought home that vintage look. Now I just tied a loop with some twine and glued that onto the back and let that dry really well so I could use this as an ornament to hang. That's totally optional. It would be even cute hanging off like your China hutch door or something like that. I just think this turned out so beautiful. Definitely an upgrade from that Dollar Tree tinsel. I feel like it's a great form that's underneath there, and you can definitely let your creativity fly with this and make it your own to match your home. What do you guys think of this? These are just some wooden square tags that I picked up at the craft store. I believe I've seen similar to this at Dollar Tree, but really I just wanted this nice square rectangle shape, and I'm going to paint one of them in white and one of them in black. And then I have these cute snowflake cutouts that came from Dollar Tree, and I'm going to do the same thing with them, paint one of them in white and one of them in black. I really loved the neutral look of the black and the white with these. I'll take the black snowflake and put it onto the white background, and I'll take the white snowflake and put it onto the black background to give kind of a contrasting look. Now these are really cute ornaments, but they also make really fun tags to put on gifts if you like to do that sort of thing. I just used some of the super glue from Dollar Tree here, just some of the gel. I felt like hot glue would really kind of seep out between all that delicate area on those snowflakes. And then of course I just had some looped twine that I fed through to give me my hanging part on here to do. I'll just have a quick look at them here on my tree. They look so cute like this, but again, they would be really cute tags. Such a fun and simple project, super quick and easy. This project is inspired by some ornaments that I saw at Vintage Market Days recently. It almost looked like they were postcards, or in this case I'm using Christmas cards to make ornaments, or even just some little cute hanging decor. So I just found these two Christmas cards. Now you're going to need two of each design because you're going to do kind of like a pop out. And I'll show you exactly what I mean with that coming along here. But I'm just going to cut down one of them as my background. And then I'm just using some cardboard. This is just an Amazon box here. You could easily use some foam core, some thick poster board, cardboard. And if you want to decorate the back, rather than having the plain cardboard on the back, you could put some scrapbook paper. However you would like to do it, wherever you're hanging this, you'll know exactly how you want it. Now this first one, I'm just using some spray adhesive. It is the Gorilla Glue. That just makes sure you're in a well-ventilated area if you're using that. And then I'm just going to cut, I rolled it with my brayer as you saw, and I'm just going to cut out the edge of the cardboard to be even with my, not postcard, but my Christmas card. Now, as I'm looking at this, I should have done the plain cardboard side out. But again, it's easy to fix because you can just cut some scrapbook paper down to put on the back, and that way you can just see just the scrapbook paper rather than the cardboard. Now I'm just going to clean any little frayed edges up or anything with my fingernail file there. And for my second one, I'm using some Elmer's school glue. Now I get asked a lot, doesn't your school glue dry out and have your pieces fall off? I have used this school glue for years, the Elmer's purple school glue. I've never had anything come unstuck. I think the problem is if you're having that happen is you're not getting a good enough bond between your surfaces. So that is why it is important to use a brayer, because that's going to make sure that no oxygen or air gets in between to dry out the glue. It's just forming that tight bond that's going to make your surfaces adhere together permanently. Now what I'm going to do is just take a piece of each of these second card and cut out as my 3D element. So I cut the car, the little cute truck. I just think that truck and the fact that it's turquoise and not red, I love it. I think it's so cute. Red would be cute too, but I just think the turquoise is real fun with that red barn. And then this little wreath here on the second card. So virtually you could take any design, any card, and cut out an element like this and do this with it. It's super simple and easy. And how fun would this be to have a tree of some really fun decorated items, or even if you're just going to do it to make a card to give someone, just make it a little extra special. So I just covered both of these with Mod Podge, and now I'm just going to go in with some iridescent glitter. You do any color. You wouldn't even have to do glitter, but I just thought that it just kind of makes it a little more fun. Again, I know glitter is kind of you either love it or you hate it. Or maybe with Christmas you can stand it a little bit, I don't know, but you do you, whatever works best. Even just a little bit of glitter around the edge of this 3D element so it's not completely covered would be really pretty also. Now I'm just taking some other pieces of that cardboard box that I had and just cutting out a little square. I felt like it was the perfect height to give that 3D element. I'm just using some hot glue, and I will just match up my truck on this one. I'm trying to get all of my glue strings off here. There was a lot. Plus it gives your glue a second to dry, so it's not going to come all the way like spilling over the edges. But I'm going to match up that truck. You still have a couple of minutes here to kind of get it all in place before that glue completely dries, which is nice, so you can kind of manipulate it if you need to. The wreath was kind of big, so I put 2 of the cardboard pieces on the back, and you'll see here, I'm just going to put a little bit of hot glue there. I will flip these over and then place it down. And again, just manipulate it so you can get it to match up to the design. You want to stand up or look at it straight on or set it up like this so you can make sure that you're getting it completely lined up exactly how you need to. If you're looking at it where it's flat on the table, it doesn't give you that perfect lineup, so just make sure you're putting it up or standing up, somehow looking at it straight on. Now I thought it would be really fun on these to kind of tie in that background to the glitter on the 3D element. So I just run around the edge with a little bit of Mod Podge, and then I'm doing a little bit of silver glitter around the edge of this one. On the wreath that says, I think it says Joy to the World. Yep, I'm going to do a little bit of gold because I thought that tied it in. I didn't have any red glitter. If I had had red, I probably would have done that where the edge of the card was already red, but unfortunately my daughters used the red glitter for 4th of July decorations, so that's totally good. I'm just doing what I had. I just thought it was fun to add that little element to it. Now I'm going to use my crocodile to punch a couple of holes in this so I can tie a little hanger on there. You could glue one to the back if you wanted to, if you didn't want to punch a hole in the front. That's totally up to you. I just liked the idea of having the hanger go from one side of the top to the other side. I felt like that would just help it hang a little bit nicer when placing it on a tree or like a little peg or something like that. I just really liked that look on it. I'm just using some twine. If you had some fancy ribbon or some baker's twine even would be very cute. You can see I have one hanging here and the other one I have just pulled that twine tight so it could stand up to be displayed. But I think these are so beautiful and fun, such a great DIY to do. Easy, doesn't take much time, perfect to do with kids or a group of people. Whether you're doing it for ornaments or cards to give someone, I really love this idea. What do you guys think of these? I'm going to take some of these tumbling tower blocks from Dollar Tree and we're going to make some cute little snowman ornaments out of them. So I'm making 3, so you need 6 blocks for each one that you make. So I took 18 blocks and I'm going to paint 12 of them black. So I'm going to use these for the cute little snowman's hat. So I just paint them all over and then the remaining the remaining 6, I just paint white. Now I love to distress things, so this is totally optional, but you just go ahead and I wanted these to look pretty vintage and aged. So I just go around each of the edges. This took a little bit of time to get all of these edges because these are so small, but it actually ends up looking really, really cute. So I do the same thing to both the black and the white. Now to make the snowman's face, I'm just putting some glue on the side of one of the white blocks and gluing it to another. And I just repeat this process through both, like all 3 snowmen here. I love to do things in 3s and ornaments that are easy like this. I have 3 kids, and so I feel like if they were ever to divide these up or if I wanted to tie them to a gift, they would each get one. So now I just glue all of the black blocks the same way, so in pairs. So on the side to side, all in groups of 2. For the hanger, I'm just using some twine, and this took a little bit of trial and error. I tried to glue this between the 2 blocks, but it left a lot of like bulkiness in between the 2 blocks, so I couldn't get a good seal. It didn't look clean or nice. So what I've decided to do is I'm not tying a knot in this at all. I just put a little glue, I let it dry so it's tacky and it's like kind of just warm to the touch, and then I will just use my finger to kind of get a good seal on the end of that twine so it makes it like a nice thin point. You can just see how to do that. Make sure, if you're at all sensitive to heat, either skip this step or do like the finger protectors or anything like that. But I do that to all 3, and then I'm just going to put a little glue on the back of one of the hats in the little crack that's there from where the 2 are glued together, and I'm going to place that down. Now, I was just going to go with this, and then I was like, that really doesn't look super clean. We can probably give it a little bit more protection and make it look a little bit nicer. So what I did is I got some craft sticks or popsicle sticks, and I just cut a couple little like rectangle pieces off. You can see when you cut them, they go flying. And I thought, okay, this is going to fit over this perfectly. I just paint it black so it matches. You can distress it, you can do whatever. And then I just use that to glue onto the back to cover up where that you can see that twine. So it just kind of masks it a little, has a little more finished look, and then it's also there as an added layer of protection so it's not going to like rip out. So now I'm just going to paint some cute little faces onto the snowman. So using the end of a paintbrush, I just dot a couple eyes, and you can get as creative as you want. Use a paint marker, you could use a Cricut, you could, if you're really good at painting, you could, I'm sure, make some darling little faces on these little snowmen, but I'm just using some dots because I feel like I can't mess those up too badly. So I just do 2 for the eyes, and then I do 5 for the mouth. And that first one, I didn't really do the dot like right in the middle of the snowman, but on these other 2 I did, and I like how that looked. But you can just play around with it and do what looks best to you. For the carrot nose, I just took the remainder of that popsicle stick that I had used, or the craft stick, and I just did my best to kind of cut out some type of shape that resembled a carrot. So kind of like a longer triangle with rounded edges. So you can kind of see, or however, I did my best. Carrots come in all shapes and sizes. So I'm sure that, and if sometimes, actually, I was at the craft store the other day and I saw that you could buy like a little bag of actual carrots, like in the bead section, like they're like little beads. So those would work perfect too. But be creative. Use whatever you want. If you have like a little star, cut like the little points off of the star to use. I've done that before. But I painted them orange and I put some little ridges on them with a pencil, and then I'm just gluing them on. Now you can have them overhang the edge if you want. You can see that there's like a little short nose, there's a long nose. It just makes them so much fun. So now I'm going to glue the brim of the hat on. So I'm taking 2 more of those black blocks, the ones that do not have the hanging tag on them, and I'm gluing them flat, as you can see. And then I will take these other 2 and glue them upright to that. So that makes this cute little hat for this snowman. Now the fun part of this is that you get to embellish the hats or make them, you could leave them just like this. They're totally cute and fine like that.
But I thought it was kind of fun to make each of them just a little bit different. And so some of them I put some ribbon around. So you can see the one up in the upper right. I did a little bit of that birch ribbon from Dollar Tree. This is the same ribbon I'm using in my Christmas tree this year, this stripe ribbon. So I thought I would tie this in with that. So I just wrap it around, and then on this one I decided to take another little piece of that ribbon and make a cute little scarf around him like he's staying warm. There's endless possibilities of things that you can do. Since he doesn't have much of like a neck to tie this around on, I'm just putting a couple glue dots on the little corners in the front to fold each piece of the ribbon over. And so that's going to help it stay. And then you can also put one in the middle of the ribbon to help it kind of stay closed. And then I cut a little fringe and I'm just fraying it with my finger there. This is how I'm cutting the fringe here on both sides. And then I just take my finger and pull some of those threads away to make it look like it's got that cute little fringe on the end. So for the next one, or actually I'm still doing this one here. I just thought it would be, let's see, which one am I doing? I don't know. I do all sorts of things to each of them, but this one I'm just putting a little bit of the greenery and just cut a little end off of that. I think that came from Dollar Tree, that greenery. And I'm just gonna glue that on with a couple of little berries. You could do some cute little bells. You could do, again, the possibilities are endless. So you can make these as fun as you want and some different things. So when I do berries, I like to do them in groups of 3, because I feel like that's kind of more of a natural thing that you see them in. So just keep that in mind. Don't overdo it with the berries. A little goes a long way with those. For this next one, I do a little bit of paint on one of these little wood snowflake stickers from Dollar Tree and just put some glitter on it to kind of give it a nice little shiny look. And then I glue that onto this little third snowman's hat. What I did do this one in the middle, I forgot that I did this, but because I left him kind of the way he was because he had a scarf, but I ended up taking some of the little jingle bells that I have. They're like rusted bells. I picked them up at Joann's this year. It's like a garland, kind of comes like the pipberry does, but I decided to wrap those around, and it kind of just gives a little bit of like a textural element to him. So you can kind of see up close there, the little jingle bells that are sitting there. Kind of breaks it up a little bit and gives him something fancy. But look at how beautiful these are. I think they're so cute. They're gonna be so fun hanging on my tree. And again, if I decide to tie them on a gift for one of my kids, I've got 3 of them. And it really didn't take much more time doing 3 of them than just one of them. What do you guys think of these little snowmen?
These are some pretty basic Christmas bells that you can pick up at Hobby Lobby. You can see it's $7.49 for the pack. However, the Christmas is usually 50% off at Hobby Lobby. When I bought these, they were. So you're working with 2 bells here. You could just use one, but you could also buy a bunch of them and have them for ornaments. But the finish on them is hard to translate on camera, but it's very fake gold looking. And I love the really rustic look of this style of bell. So we're going to rustic these up a bit. So I'm taking some baking soda and just some black chalk paint, and I'm just going to mix these together to make kind of a paste. I do mist a little bit of water in there to kind of help give it a little bit more liquid, so that way as you start to mix these together, they'll mix fairly well. And you just want this to be kind of a paste consistency, so when you dab your brush on your bell, you're going to create some texture. Work in some small sections as you're doing this. You can start from the top to the bottom, but you just want to make sure that you're not obviously messing up the texture with your fingers or anything. Do make sure that you get inside your bell, because if this is hanging on your tree or wherever it's hanging from, you will be able to see up into it at least half of the way. I decided to paint the entire inside of mine. So on this one, I started out by holding the bell on my fingers there and working from the top on the way down. That way I was trying to just avoid any mess. Now, if you don't have a bell or you want to try this texture, you could use any of these like plasticky type ornaments from Dollar Tree. You can use really any type of ornament that you could do this on. Now, to get the gold to come through, I'm using some antique gold rub and buff. I love this stuff. It works so good. I started with my finger trying to rub it on here, but I ultimately decided for this size of project, a brush was going to work because I didn't need it to be super thick. You can put it on as heavy or as light as you would like, but this way I could hit all of the raised areas of that texture, and I did kind of swirl the gold around to get it heavier in some areas. But you're just going to do this process all over this top surface of the bell, and then also on the inside, and also the little, I don't even know what that's called. What is the little like thing that dings the bell? I sound so uneducated, but I don't know what that's called. But you're going to do this all over your entire bell. I think these look so cute. That texture is so cute. Of course, you can't hear them ding right here, but they sound really good too. But they just look so farmhouse and vintage country. I just love that texture that this adds to them. Now, one of them I'm going to show you can jazz up just a little bit. So I'm just taking a little bit of ribbon and tying just a little teeny tiny bow. And after I get the rope put back onto the top, then we'll go ahead and kind of jazz one of them up. I was able to salvage the rope on the top of them, so if you're doing these bells, just keep that in mind as you're taking the rope off to not cut it off. It's just glued on there with some hot glue, so you can just kind of peel it off, and then you're able to reuse that again. So just taking some of my scrap picks from my Christmas stash here, I'm just taking a couple of ends. I'm trying to keep it fairly neutral, so I picked, these came from Walmart, and it's kind of a juniper with a little bit of the white berries on there. You can get them in red or in white, and I stock up on both of these because I just love them. And I'm just gluing a little piece on either side of that hanger on the bell, and then that's where I will put my little ribbon. Now, if you hang this on a tree, I will admit it gets a little lost in a tree because you've already got the pine on your tree. And so if you were to hang it somewhere else, maybe off of like a little knob of like your hutch or something like that, it would be really cute. I just wanted to kind of spark that creative interest, that give you some ideas to not just have to have it be a plain bell if you don't want it to be. These turn out simply beautiful. You can kind of see how you can see the bow on the one bell, but not so much the pine on there. So that's kind of what I was talking about. But these are so pretty. And imagine if you had a whole bunch of these all over your tree, or just a handful of them, or even just use this technique to use these bells somewhere else in your decor. What do you guys think of these? I love making beaded ornaments for my tree, and these are so simple and easy. It takes just a couple different sizes of beads to use. Now, I did find these gold beads at Hobby Lobby in the jewelry section. They came in kind of a pack with some different colors, like shades of reds and pinks, but I'm just taking some of the gold. You could obviously paint beads whatever color match your tree. I've seen some really cute printed like plastic beads on Amazon that would be cute to mix in here. I'm just using like 4 different sizes. There's the gold beads, and then I have a very large one in the middle you can see there, and then it kind of tapers down. So it goes from small to big and then big to small. Now I'm making 3 different ornaments, but I'm going to do them on the same piece of twine. This is such a game changer. I'm going to speed this up a little bit here. When you're making these ornaments, so if you're making like 10 at a time, maybe you're going to sell them, or you want a whole bunch on your tree, make them on one long thing like this that you bead, and then you just tie them off in the sections as you go, rather than having to do that between each one. I feel like it just saves a lot of time to do that. But you can have fun picking up different patterns that you do with your different beads and things, different colors to play around with. You see I'm going to cut my twine, and I'll just slide that down to the end here to separate it. I'm just going to tie off the knot at the end so the beads won't slide off of there. On the top, I'm just going to give myself plenty of twine here to work with, so that way I don't run out of room or anything. And I'm just going to loop this over and then just tie it in a knot, just pull it through there. That's going to give you your hanger to hang it onto your tree, like a branch from your tree with. If your loop ends up too long, just do the knot again. It's going to shorten that enough that you should be able to hang it. But you can kind of see there, they almost just remind me of icicles or something. I don't know, just kind of a fun, whimsical thing hanging from a tree. I love it. Now I'm going to do the same thing to the other 2, just tie off the top, and so that way I will have them to hang from my branches of my tree with. I think these are so fun and easy, such a great project to do, especially if you have a lot of excess wooden beads that you want to use. Now, the thing is from year to year, you can keep these and reuse them. If you want to take these and dismantle them, cut them up and have the beads for other projects, you can do that as well. I will say that I have these with the gold beads on my tree, and then I made some that have just the plain wood colored beads without the gold, and they both look stunning on my tree, and I absolutely love them.
I really love the look of vintage paper ornaments, so I cut all of these designs out with my cutting machine. If you have a die cut, you could use that. They sell shapes like this at the craft store in the scrapbook section that you could get. You could even cut them by hand. Whatever you would like. You don't even have to necessarily do this part. I just love the trim and the edge that this adds to the ornament. So I want them to look really distressed and really aged. So I'm just wrinkling all of the paper, putting lots of crinkles in there. And then you could do a couple of things to distress and age these. You could put them in some tea or coffee to dye them that way. I have these distressing inks that I picked up at Joann's years ago. They do sell them at Hobby Lobby, I've seen. You can get them on Amazon. But I'm just rubbing the ink pad directly onto my background here, onto these little cutout shapes. And then I'm using a darker color that will help all of those little wrinkles and crinkles pop, so it really hits home that aged vintage look. And I just go over front and back and make sure that everything is really covered good. Now I'm taking some water, just my mister bottle, and I'm spraying that all over to give an even different element of the age look to them, so you can see how they look there. It makes that ink run a little bit. It makes little water spots appear. It really makes it look like these have just been sitting in the attic for decades upon decades, and that's exactly what I'm going for. The hardest part of this whole project is finding the graphics that you want to use. Now, I searched and searched through the Graphics Fairy's website, which she has amazing graphics, so I'll leave the link to her website down in my description box. I created one of these using a couple of different images and some things in Canva that I did, so I can leave a link to that if you want to print that out. And some of them did come from Canva. I just printed a bunch of different images. You could easily use Christmas cards, old postcards that you picked up like at a thrift or vintage antique store, anything like that that you would like to use. But it is just very easy to hop online and look for some vintage graphics and just do it that way. So I'm just using my trusty Elmer's school glue. This is just the purple glue stick on the back. I will lay that down and center it on each of the designs, and then I'm just going over with my brayer to make sure that I get those pieces bonded together really well. Now I'm going to take some Mod Podge and put this over. This is going to seal and coat these. You do want to make sure that your ink is completely dry. I did print these out with an inkjet printer, so I left them overnight to dry completely before putting the Mod Podge on the front and the back. Now I've seen with some of these vintage paper ornaments, they use like the tinsel or the silvery kind of pipe cleaner here. I thought it would be really fun to add these. These just came from the Dollar Tree, and I was hesitant at first, but I really like the way that they look. So I'm just going to put a thin row or bead of hot glue and just kind of work in sections so I don't have a lot of hot glue seeping out. I don't want these to look like they were homemade or kind of like, I just want them to look high end and like something you could sell at a craft fair or in like a craft show or something, like a cute little store. I have seen these in some of the stores that I've gone into in my travels, that they sell ornaments like this for a lot of money. So I was kind of going for that vibe here, but I think selling a set of these, if you're into that or that's something you're looking for, would be a great idea and a great addition to your booth. If you're not into selling things or don't want to sell them, they would just be a great addition to your decor or to your tree, or a great gift for somebody who maybe decorates with more of this vintage feel. So again, I'm just lining up the pipe cleaner. They weren't long enough to go around each one time, so I had to add a little bit onto each one. So I would just take a little bit here, you can see, and I will glue that on and then just cut off the excess. So just showing you on these square ornaments, I don't do like a hard corner on them. I kind of do a more rounded corner with the pipe cleaner there. I just use my finger to kind of have it go around that. So that way it has kind of a more natural look to it. So just pointing that out. But I just think these are looking so cute. And I love, this reminds me of an old postcard. And it's so beautiful, and I just love how the little silver flecks of the pipe cleaner just add an extra little sparkle and detail. But I'm going to add a little bit of extra sparkle to these as well. Some of these ornaments that I have seen have had a little bit of glitter added. I'm just doing a little bit of it. This is totally optional. I know glitter's not everybody's thing, but I'm just going like for instance, on Santa's little trim on his coat and his hat, maybe on his little arm cuff there, and just putting a little bit of Mod Podge. And then I'm just going to pour some glitter over the top of that. Now I'm just using the cheap Walmart glitter that I bought at Walmart. I don't even know what brand it is, but it was just like the only kind of glitter that Walmart had in their craft section. So nothing super special. So you can see it's just a little bit of sparkle to take it to the next level, make it a little bit extra. And some of them don't have a lot of like Santa's trim, for instance. And so I would just pick some random toys to have a little bit of sparkle on, just somewhere where it would naturally look like it would glisten or something. And I just shake that around, as you can see here, and then just tap off the excess glitter. On this one right here, there was a lot of snow. And so I thought it would be fun to kind of add that. You're just going for, you don't want to over the top. You're just going for something to take it to the next level, have it look a little bit more high end than just leaving it plain as it was. It would be fine to leave it that way. However, it's just a matter of personal preference. I just feel like the ornaments like this that I have seen do have a little bit of the glitter and sparkle like this, so I thought it would be fun to add that touch as well. You can see how it's just a little bit, but it really does just make it so much more beautiful. And these images are beautiful, and they would be so fun to do so many different projects with, not just the ornaments. Now I need a way to hang these, and so I'm just using my Crop-A-Dial. You can see here it's like crop, C-R-O-P. I'll leave a link to this down in my description box. I use this for a lot of different crafts. It was very much a game changer. It originally is meant to do grommets with, and I usually use it to punch holes in different things, but I'm going to show you here how you do the grommet. Is it comes with these, and you can buy them also at the craft store, but you just place them on the main like mouth part of this, and when you stick your ornament in, you just want to make sure it's facing the correct way, so the bent part of the grommet will be in the back, and you just push it down, and you can see how that just adds, rather than just having a hole punched in there, it gives such a finished look to it. So I just continue on and do this to all of them, and I go with that kind of brassy, like aged brass color, because I felt like that would really hit home that vintage style. But you can see you just clamp that down, and it creates that beautiful finish on there. I'm just taking some regular twine here, and I'm going to feed that through each of the ornaments. So I just bend it over, and I take the loop and feed it from the front of the ornament to the back. So I will just push that through and grab that. And then you'll just take the excess tails and pull them through. You can see I missed one there, so I'm just going to pull that other one through. And this is such a finished look rather than just tying it off on the ornament. I love that when you do this, it makes the ornament face outward, and so it doesn't like turn to the side on your tree at all, or wherever you're going to place this. And then I just looped it to tie a knot in the top, and I'm just cutting off the tails now. And you don't want the tails to be too long, but I do kind of just go put my thumbnail and my finger over them to kind of fray them just a little bit. For some reason, I feel like that just gives it a little bit more of a high-end look to it, rather than having it be so crisp and looking like it was just barely cut with the scissors. Like, it gives it kind of a warm feel. I don't know how to explain it, but you can kind of see what it does. So it's just a matter of if you like that or not. Now I'm just doing the same with each of the other ornaments, but what I'm doing is I'm making sure that I'll place them on top of one another to make sure that the hanging tassel, or not the tassel, but the twine, that it's all the same length. So that way, if you were to display these somewhere, they're all hanging at a similar level. You don't want one being super short and one being super long. It just gives it more of a clean look. I am just in awe of all four of these together displayed like this. I mean, one is absolutely beautiful on its own, but to have a collection like this hanging on your tree, I just think these are going to be so beautiful. Now, as of when I made these, it was October, so I don't have my tree up, so this is the best that I can do to show you with these hanging from a garland here. I'll have to show some pictures of them hanging on my tree once that's all up and decorated, but I just feel like these are such a beautiful addition. I mean, would you love getting these as a gift if someone made them for you, or would you purchase these at a craft bazaar or something? I just feel like they're beautiful, and what a fun touch to add to your Christmas decor. I love that gingerbread is kind of all the rage right now. It's so fun, and it's been popular for the last few years, and it doesn't show any sign of like losing popularity or anything. So I have this little paint palette. It came from Dollar Tree, and I have to admit, I was scrolling through Pinterest and I saw something similar to this. It was done with like laser cut pieces, and I thought this would be perfect to try this on. So I'm just sanding it down with my fingernail file here because I'm going to put paint on it. I want to do the best I can to get my paint to stick. If I had this to do over again, I might have spray painted the base coat on with just some of like the metallic spray paint. The hammered finish, I think, would have done a really good job giving a good texture to it. This worked fine. It just was a little time consuming because you have to thoroughly let that dry between each layer because you don't want it to flake off on the plastic. And so I just give it a couple good coats, and now I'm going to make this look as rusty as I can because I wanted this to look like give it really good aged look to it. So I start with a little bit of Merlot color. So it's like a dark maroon. And I kind of sparingly go over, you can kind of see, I'll dab my brush into it and then dab it off onto the paper towel. And then I kind of use that. You don't want a whole lot, but just enough to kind of get a little bit of color on there. And I just kind of go around in different areas, and this is just haphazardly. There's really no method to this. You just keep blending and doing this until everything looks good. So I'm taking some burnt umber and I put it right onto the little bit of Merlot that I was using, so it kind of blends in together now. And I will go over all of those spots kind of right next to or around or on top of where that Merlot color was to kind of help tone that redness, I guess redness would be the correct term. But I'm just kind of doing that. So it just kind of is giving this more of like an aged look. I want this to look like a little baking tin that's set out forever, like a little muffin tin that's set out for like years at the farm or something like that. So once I get all of the brown on there, and I will go back and use these colors back and forth through different layers. So I'm not technically done with each of them, but I'm moving on to the next step right now, which is to bring a little bit of orange. So it's just a pumpkin color, and you can see I dab it even into a little bit of the brown mixture that I have there, and I start going over. And this is where it really starts to kind of come to life, that you can kind of see like a little bit of rustiness. Now, I know a lot of you, every time I do a rust technique, say, oh, but you should try this or do this. There are so many different rust techniques out there. So if you know something that you like better or that works better, I mean, definitely do that. There's the method of doing like some Mod Podge or spray adhesive and then putting cinnamon all over. There's different techniques with spray paint that you can do. I mean, there's so many different, even just a little bit of like the burnt umber would be fine too. But as you can see, I'm just going all over with that orange. And then if I need to tone it down, I'll go back in with some of the brown over the top of it. And I don't even clean my brush off between the layers. Like that's how much you're just kind of mixing and blending all of these. So what really gives it a nice touch is a little bit of yellow, and just the littlest amount. Because if you look at actual rust, you can kind of see like that bright yellow, like little pieces of that in there. Not a lot, but just a little bit. It brightens up that orange and it gives it a much more authentic look. So I just keep going around until everything looks okay. But the last step that you need to do is take your silver and go back over the top of all of that, just very lightly tapping. And so it gives it kind of like that presence of that metallic, like the actual pan on top of like the rust is coming from up underneath. So hopefully you can kind of see what I'm doing here. You just want it to look rusty and crusty, and I think it's great. So now I just put some Mod Podge on because I want to seal this really good because it is on that plastic. We did sand it, so it should stick all right, especially once it gets a good cure. But I definitely want to protect it with the Mod Podge. So I do front and back with this same method. This pack of ornaments or tags came from Dollar Tree, and they have these adorable little laser cut snowmen on top of them. They're all, I think there's two different of each one. They all have cute little designs on them. They look like they're dressed for winter. They're adorable. So I just take a little strip of fabric that I've torn off of just some red and cream striped fabric that I have that's perfect for Christmas. And I'm just going to tie that just in like a cute little knot on here. And I don't want it to be directly in the center. I just kind of place it where it looks good to your eye. So if you like it in the center, I mean, go with that. This is your project when you make it, so you do differently what you want. And I mean, it's going to be beautiful. And if you do recreate anything, I always love to see them. So hop on over to Instagram and send me a picture because I love to see the things that you guys create. So I'm just cutting this off on a little bit of an angle here, and then I will fray the ends, just pull some of those threads out so it has that nice little look there of being aged. I snipped off the end of some greenery, and I'm just taking the end of that with some hot glue, and I'm just sticking it kind of into that knot, so it's just kind of peeking out. Kind of like if this was, wrapped up as a gift that was set outside for years and forgotten about. So it's got this cute little pine bough and then some little berries on there for some extra little texture. And then I had punched some holes in the top with my crocodile. And so whether you glue these, I don't suggest really gluing them on the paint on plastic. So you really do just use a hole punch, or if you have your crocodile, it does a little smaller punch. but I'm just tying off the twine in the holes, and I thought it would be really cute to put the knots at the front and then just cut the tails off really good. And then I glue that cute little gingerbread man on there. I'm just trying to decide where I actually want him, and I find the spot that he is the cutest to me. So you just decide, you could put a couple on there, but isn't that such a fun little ornament? I mean, whether it's for a kitchen or somebody who bakes or just a cute little ornament on your tree, I just thought this was so fun. For this project, I'm just starting out with some craft paper. You can pick this up at Dollar Tree. This time of year, you can find it in all of your gift wrapping. It's just regular brown packing paper, but you really can do it with any paper, and I end up doing it with a book page. So I'll show you exactly what I do. But I'm just cutting a strip probably about 6 inches across. It just depends on how big you want your star to be. And really, these are like a star or a snowflake, you could call them. So I'm just gonna, for purposes, I'm gonna say that they're a star, but you're just gonna fold these in an accordion way. So I go down maybe like a 1/2 inch. What I end up doing is I end up getting a popsicle stick here. You can see like the craft stick, the thicker ones. That's what I use to make my folds uniform. And so I just fold that, and you can see I stick that in, make sure that I'm right to the edge of that craft stick. That way I'm getting nice straight folds. Because if you're anything like me, I start folding it and then I'm like way off on one side and almost like I'm folding on a diagonal. So it was really nice to have this kind of as a guide. But you could use a ruler if you're good and you're like, oh my gosh, girl, I got this. I can just fold it without anything. Like, I know how to fold paper. Then you can definitely do that. But you're just going to go across or fold down maybe like 15 times or so. You just want, it just depends on how many different folds you would like in your star. So I'm just going to keep folding until I get to the end of this paper. Once you're to the end of the paper, I'm just going to take a piece of twine and I'm going to tie this off in the middle. Now you can fold it first or you can tie it off first. It's not going to matter right here, but I'm just going to show you here that I'm just taking a little bit of twine and I'm just going to tie this. This is just, I don't know that it has any purpose to it. I just tied it on there, but it really does just kind of add just a little visual interest into the center, and you can embellish these any way that you want to, but this is just helping so it doesn't like pop everywhere, because sometimes your paper might just open up and you're like, anyway. So I'm just showing you how I did this, and if you know an easier way or something, then go with that. Now I end up using some hot glue at this part, so you can see I'm folding it in half. But when I do my book page, I end up using the Elmer school glue, which I like that a little bit better. To get the shape of your star, you just want to cut at an angle from one of the corners down. You can make it as dramatic as you want or as little as you want. But you're just going to want to glue your inside pieces together here. So you just folded that little teeny strip together. So the pieces you folded together, you just want to glue those. So you can see how I'm doing that. And I'm just going to press these together until that glue dries and it has a firm hold. And once that dries, you can start to open up your star here, and you can kind of fan it out. Now, as you can see, I had some of the hot glue pieces there that I was having to pick a little bit that seeped out. So that's why I kind of liked using the Elmer's glue. But you can see I'm just going to take those other ends once you fold that open here, or unfold it open, I guess it would be the correct way to say that. I'm just going to do the same thing and put a little bit of glue on this side and then glue it together so your star will be completely open and it will reveal the most beautiful folds in there. And I just think it makes the most darling little shape. I just take a hole punch and I'm just hole punching kind of where a couple of those folds are, and I'm just feeding through some twine on there and tying that off so I have something to hang this with. Now, as I was doing this, I thought it would be really fun to add something a little extra, so I just take a Dollar Tree wooden bead. You could do a couple, like a couple different sizes. I just feel that this adds a little something extra, so it's not just the twine and the paper. It makes it look a little bit more high end and maybe not so like school project-y. It just kind of looks fun. And I just think it adds a little something extra, which I felt like it needed. I followed the exact same process with a page out of an old book that I've been using for some projects. I did use my, not this kind of Elmer's glue to adhere it, but just the purple glue stick to get the edges to stick together. But I thought it would be really fun to put some of this type of school glue on here. And I am just running my finger along the edges of all of those folds and I want to put some glitter and some sparkle on here. I really love the way that the sparkle and the book page looks. Now, if you wanted to age your book pages, soak them in some coffee or tea, or even use a little bit of antiquing wax or something, that would look very pretty and vintage also. But you can see I'm just sprinkling this glitter everywhere and making sure that I hit all of those high spaces that I put that glue on, and then I let that completely dry. Now, once I did this once and I lifted up the star and saw how beautiful it was, I decided that I wanted to put a little bit more on the edges. I am so pleased with how these came out. I think they look beautiful, and my favorite, I think, is the book page with a little bit of sparkle. I do love the brown one. It definitely has a simplicity to it. Would you do anything to embellish that further? If so, I would love to know what you would do to it. But I just think that a whole bunch of these all over a tree would make such a statement, and they're fun and they're easy to make, and they were very quick. You could have your kids or grandkids help you. I just think they turned out so beautiful. At Dollar Tree, you can always find this sort of round shape that you can use. They're perfect for making ornaments out of, but whether it's plain wood or has a design on it, is thick or thin, I feel like you can always find something this shape there. Now, I sanded off my design because I didn't want to battle having to do coat after coat of paint to cover that. So I sanded it off and then just gave it a good coat of paint on each side. Now I have this stamp that's Evergreen Trees, and I picked this up at Hobby Lobby, and just in case you're wanting to pick up the same one, but I mean, they have stamps at Dollar Tree, they have stamps a lot of different places, but I thought it would be really fun to try this on an ornament. I had no idea how this was going to work out, but I thought I'd give it a try. And you can see obviously that the stamp is bigger than the ornament, so I'm just trying to see how I want to place it. So I'm just taking my ink, and at first I'm kind of pushing the ink onto the stamp, and then I decide, oh, I don't know if I like that, let me try it this way. I've seen this done several times. And I used to do stamping way back in the day when it was like super popular, and I feel like it's gaining a little bit more popularity again because they're fun to work with. But you can just see here how I just want to make sure that I'm getting a good coat of the ink all over and have it be even all over the area of the stamp that I'm using. And once I have that, I go ahead, and you're kind of like one and done. Once you place it, you're not moving it, you have to go with it. So I'm just making sure before I start to press it down, it's exactly where I want it. And then I gently kind of set it down, and then I'm going to go rub my fingers all over, make sure that every surface of that stamp gets a little bit of pressure to transfer that ink onto the design. So I'm just holding it steady with one hand as I push with the other, and I kind of transfer back and forth between each hand, just making sure that it's stable and doesn't move. And then I just lift it straight up, and oh my gosh, I think this is beautiful. I was so happy when I saw this that I was like, wow, I mean, that looks like snow on those trees. Like, it's just so pretty with the black and the white, and there was just something so simple and so elegant about it. Now I decided to do the back side, so that way if the ornament was to spin on your tree, you'd be able to see it from each side. So I'm just going to repeat that exact same process, just getting that stamp completely covered. And I'll show you on this one, there's a little boo-boo that happens. I'll show you how I fix it. So I place it down, and just watching this back, because I was like, I just think I didn't get enough pressure in one of the areas enough. But the same thing is I just hold it down with one hand, and I'm just going to go over all of the areas and push it down. And again, you just want to make sure that you're hitting all of those areas. And maybe I didn't have enough ink in this particular spot or something. I'm not really sure, but you just want to make sure, as you can see here, just gently pressing, I'm rubbing, I'm making sure that I get all of that ink transferred. So you'll see here as I lift this up, you can see the little hole there that I created, so with no ink. And I was like, ooh, do I paint this over? Do I start over? So I just place it back down, I line it up as best as I can, and I'm just pressing in that area, trying careful not to push in any of the other areas or anything like that. And it actually came out looking totally fine. I felt like it looked okay. I mean, it maybe isn't perfect if you look super close, but I mean, nature isn't perfect either. So I felt like it was good, and I was going to go with it. Now, I just fed some of this twine through the hole in the top. I picked which side I wanted to be my front, and then I fed it through from the front going to the back, and then I just looped it around, and now I just tie this off just to make sure that you have something to hang it from your tree with. And then, as always, when I trim off my little tails that are left, I kind of play with them a little bit with my fingernail and my finger behind it, just to kind of give it a little bit of a frayed look. I feel like that just kind of makes it look not so like freshly cut. It looks like it's been around for a minute or two. But look at how beautiful this ornament turns out. I think this is so elegant. It's clean and it's simple. It would be, I mean, think how pretty several of these over a tree would look. But even just this one standing alone or tied to a gift, I think this is just a beautiful ornament. What do you guys think of this one?
I would like to thank you so much for joining me for today's compilation video. I hope that you enjoyed all of these DIYs. If you had a favorite, let me know down in the comments. I always love to hear which ones you guys like the best. Thank you so much for watching today. I'll see you next time. Happy crafting! If you like the video that you just saw and you want to keep crafting together, here's another video that you might enjoy. And as always, remember to like and subscribe. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time.